If you're looking for a low-cost smartphone right now, you might be wondering which device to go with. In this video, we look at two recent devices under the £200 mark from two of Xiaomi's brands, the Redmi Note 11 and the POCO M4 Pro 5G. We'll discuss all the aspects of those devices, from build and screen quality, to software and gaming performance, to photo and video quality, with some side-by-side comparisons. So let's just get into it. As you can expect at this price range, both phones have plastic backs. The difference here is that the Redmi Note 11 is matte, while POCO is more shiny and sometimes fingerprinty. POCO's design is also more daring, with a large POCO label and an additional "Designed by POCO" caption placed in the middle of the camera section. Speaking of which, looking from afar, it might seem that you're sporting a phone with 5 cameras on the back. However, there's only 2, plus a flash and 2 literal stickers, a red dot and an AI sticker. It's clearly a design choice to make the phone appear as having more features than it actually does. Do with that what you will. Colors are also more daring. Our review unit is the power black one, but the cool blue and especially yellow are quite a statement. In comparison, the Redmi is much less in your face. The design is quite flat, there are no fake camera stickers, the branding is nice and small, and the color selection is in the blacks and the blues. It's up to you to decide which approach you prefer. One thing to note is the size of the devices. The POCO is visibly larger than the Redmi, mostly due to the screen size, so let's discuss that now. Screens are actually one of the biggest differentiators between the two phones in my opinion, and it's not the size but the technology. The Redmi Note 11 uses the 6.43-inch AMOLED screen, while POCO uses a larger 6.6-inch IPS LCD one. I'm sure you've heard that before. AMOLED screens are considered to be better for smartphones, especially due to better blacks and contrast, as well as great color reproduction. And that's definitely the case here. I found the Redmi screen much better than the POCO. It's a bit difficult to show this on camera, but in person, the great color reproduction and contrast make it a more enjoyable experience to watch content. It was also much easier to use it in the bright light, as it's significantly brighter than the POCO, and you can definitely see this on camera. Overall, it's a great screen. The additional benefit is the always-on screen functionality, which works great on AMOLED screens. The POCO screen has been quite good as well, with the benefit that it's larger, so if you enjoy consuming content like Netflix or Disney+, you should enjoy it. Other stats are quite similar. Both phones support Full HD+ screen resolutions, and both offer smooth 90Hz refresh rate, so you're getting what you'd expect, or more, for this class of devices. Overall though, definitely a big win for Redmi in here. I would take it anytime. The screen is great, and the size makes the phone quite handy indeed. When it comes to battery life, I've been super happy with both devices. Both phones have 5000 mAh batteries, and in both cases, it lasted the whole day and much more of frequent use. And when both phones were my secondary devices, used more sporadically, the phone could be up for a few days with really great standby times. Great job to Xiaomi in both cases. What's more, both devices use fast charging at 33 watts, and in both cases, the chargers are included, which can't be said of many more expensive devices from Samsung, Apple and other manufacturers. Definitely great to see at this price point. Overall, you should definitely be happy with the battery and charging performance of both devices. Part of the reason why the battery performance is so good is thanks to the chipsets, and in this case the devices are quite different from one another. For the Redmi, we get the Qualcomm Snapdragon 680 chipset, which has 8 cores and is built in the 6nm technology, which should be quite efficient. The POCO uses a MediaTek Dimensity 810 chipset, which also has 8 cores and 6nm technology, but it also adds 5G into the mix. Looking at pure performance tests, the POCO wins most of them, despite the Snapdragon chipset being newer. And in most cases, the performance in games is also better, based on my experience. Both phones perform well when it comes to basic or casual games, like some arcade classics like Sonic the Hedgehog. Neither of the phones has any problems with racing games like Asphalt Extreme. They work great at 30 frames per second. When it gets interesting is games like Call of Duty. Starting with the Redmi, its Qualcomm chipset is newer and has better support, so you'll find graphics quality options from low all the way to very high. But on very high, you'll be limited to medium frame rate, which is around 40 frames per second. If you want to go to 60 frames per second, you need to dial down to low quality. On the other hand, POCO's MediaTek chipset is not as well supported, which results in only low and medium details options being available, so you won't be able to increase it. However, you'll be able to play with medium details with 60 frames per second, which is better than what the Redmi offers. Similarly, I was able to play Genshin Impact on high resolution in fluid 30 frames per second on the POCO without issues. But the Redmi struggled on high resolution at under 20 frames per second, so I had to decrease the resolution to low to enjoy 30 frames per second. Overall, I'd say don't expect the greatest performance from either of the phones, but you should be able to enjoy most games for sure, especially on the POCO. Let's move on to the software. Both devices use MIUI, Xiaomi's operating system. As of April, the Redmi uses a much newer version, 13.0.9, and it's on the February security update. The original draft of this video said that the POCO was lagging behind a lot with MIUI 12.5.3 and November security update, but as I was writing it up, I got a notification of a software update, taking the phone to the March security update, which was the latest just a few days ago. Unfortunately, the POCO remains on MIUI 12.5 rather than the latest 13. However, to be honest, I can't see too many changes between the two, and you're unlikely to notice too many differences in your daily usage for now. The real upgrade in functionality will come when both phones get upgraded to Android 12, which I hope will happen soon. But how's the experience? If you've seen any of our videos, you'll know we like MIUI here, especially how easy it is to configure stuff. Plus there's my favorite all settings menu. There's the usual pre-installed apps, and in my case, POCO was much worse when it comes to random games, which wasn't the case on Redmi. You might get some ads from time to time, especially when installing apps from the Google Play Store, but you can disable them in most cases. Overall, while Redmi has a slight advantage with MIUI 13, the user experience is quite similar, so I'd call it a draw. We'll also get a draw for security. Actually, scratch that. Both phones are winners here, thanks to the excellent side-mounted fingerprint scanner. I prefer those any day over in-display ones, so I'm super happy that both phones have them, and they're really fast as well. Both phones also offer face unlock, and they work just fine, but with the fingerprint scanner being so convenient, I don't use that feature too much, especially that it's less secure. We do have a clear winner for connectivity. As mentioned earlier, and in the name of the device, the POCO M4 Pro 5G supports the latest 5G networks, so if you live in an area with such connectivity, you should be getting the fastest internet speeds. Redmi's Snapdragon 810 processor doesn't support 5G. You'd have to upgrade to Redmi Note 11 Pro 5G for that. Similarly, for Bluetooth connectivity, the POCO supports a slightly newer version 5.1, while the Redmi is still on 5.0. However, there's not a massive difference between the two. Luckily, both phones support infrared blasters, handy when traveling, but unfortunately, our review unit for the Redmi didn't have NFC, which is something I use all the time now. According to Xiaomi, this is market dependent, but it's surprising that it's not available here in the UK, so make sure to check it before purchasing one. When it comes to audio, it's great to see that both devices have the carriage ports, aka 3.5mm audio jacks. Always good to see that, especially if your headphones run out of battery and you can fall back to the headphone jack. And if you don't have headphones on you, you can use the built-in speakers. In both cases you get stereo speakers, and in both cases the quality is quite good. Interestingly, in my very non-scientific test, I found that which speaker was louder depended on the app I used. For Amazon Music, Redmi was louder, but for YouTube, POCO came up on top. No matter how you measure it, the quality for both is quite good. Don't expect very deep bass or the headphone quality, but for watching some YouTube videos, both devices are quite good overall. Finally, let's discuss my favorite topic, cameras. And this was quite a surprise for me, especially after spending quite a lot of time looking at the photos for this video. Looking at the two main cameras on the back, They look the same on paper, 50 megapixel f1.8 main cameras and 8 megapixel f2.2 ultra-wide cameras, but here the POCO has a slightly wider field of view. In addition, the Redmi Note 11 has 2 extra cameras, but they're both 2 megapixel macro and depth sensor, so I won't be focusing on them. Let's start with the main camera. The photos are quite different, and it's possibly due to the software and processing. The photos from the POCO on the right were usually brighter with better dynamic range. They were usually better for photos with people, as you could see more of the person's face. On the other hand, Redmi to me had better colors, more saturation and detail, so I preferred landscape photos from the Redmi. The sky is more blue, the colors are more pleasing. But for low light, I think this last photo shows the difference quite nicely. While the sky might be more purple on the Redmi, you can see much more on the POCO, and it's significantly better. It's similar for ultra-wide, including the same photo from the ruins. Again, POCO was brighter in most cases, and for landscapes, I tend to prefer the Redmi. Let me leave you with some photos from my recent trip to the Nota Castle, near Aberdeen in Scotland. I actually think both phones did a great job there. For selfies, we have 13 megapixel for Redmi and 16 for the POCO, but again, it comes down to the processing. More saturation on the Redmi, brighter photos with higher dynamic range for POCO in most cases. There's also portrait mode, and it did quite alright in both cases. But let me just leave you with a photo of Amigo, isn't he the cutest? Overall, having reviewed all the photos I took, I'd say I'd go with the POCO M4 Pro 5G due to all the reasons I mentioned above. Let us know in comments what you think. Finally, let's quickly discuss video capabilities of both devices. We've made detailed camera sample videos for both, so make sure to check them both for video and audio samples. Unfortunately, I can't call video capabilities of either of the phones great. Neither of the devices supports 4K recording, which is understandable at this price point, so we'll have to deal with Full HD. The issue is that the image quality isn't the best, and the light tends to flicker from time to time. In bad weather, which is quite common here in Scotland, the image won't look too great. Luckily, the image stabilization for both is quite good, even though there's no optical image stabilization in either of the devices. Luckily, in both cases, it worked great. The M4 Pro 5G does have a few advantages though. First off, it supports 60 frames per second recording, meaning you can slow down the footage. In my case, I'm exporting the video to 24 frames per second, so it's at 40% speed. The POCO is also better when it comes to selfie video. Unfortunately, for some reason, the image from the Redmi is always shaky, no matter how hard I try to not move my hand. I initially thought it was due to the wind, but I tried today in a quiet garden and it struggled. The dynamic range is also better on the POCO, you can see more of the sky. The one advantage of the Redmi is that you can record macro video, if you want a close-up of some flowers or similar, in which case you can use that mode, you won't be able to get that close on the POCO. Which of the two you pick will depend on your priorities. On the one hand, you get the smaller and more subtle Redmi with an excellent OLED screen, which really makes a big difference on a daily basis. Unfortunately, the photo and video quality isn't the best, as you've seen, and the performance could be better. On the other hand, you get the more in-your-face POCO with better photo and video quality, despite the two fake cameras, better performance, but with an LCD screen instead. We'll leave the choice to you, but feel free to let us know in the comments below which one you'd go with. Expect also a full long-term review of the Redmi Note 11 coming up soon, and potentially a comparison with its predecessor, the Redmi Note 10. So if you're interested in that, make sure to subscribe to the Tech Travel Geeks to not miss those videos. But for now, thanks for watching!